Good afternoon. Welcome to my camp out here on Turkey Creek. I want to show you a new rifle this afternoon that I finished here not too long ago. And that is the U.S. rifle model 1803, more commonly known as the 1803 Harper's Ferry. Now before I show you the rifle, I want to give you just a tidbit of history as background to this rifle. In 1799, Great Britain raised a rifle regiment, and also in 1799, the United States the Congress authorized a rifle regiment. Now, this regiment wasn't actually funded until 1808, but in the meantime, as world events progressed and tensions tightened, the United States instituted the Harper's Ferry arsenal and started work on what would become known as the 1803 rifle. Now, as I said, the regiment itself wasn't funded and stood up until 1808, and it actually existed as the U.S. Regiment of Rifles from 1808 to 1821. During the War of 1812, more specifically in the year of 1813, I believe, they expanded the rifle regiment into 4 regiments, and the regiments were numbered 1, 2, 3, and 4. Regiments 2 and 3 didn't really see much action. They did more garrison duty, but the 1st Regiment and the 4th Regiment actually did see quite a bit of combat in battles. And at the end of the War of 1812, which ended in 1815. They stood the other regiments down, and the only regiment still remaining was the 1st Regiment of Rifles. That regiment went on to do a lot of Western duty. In 1817, I believe, one company was detailed to locate and build and garrison Fort Smith, which is now in western Arkansas on the Arkansas River. Also, they were detailed along with, I think it was 6 companies detailed with the 6th U.S. Infantry in 1818, I believe, to establish Fort Atkinson in what is now modern-day Nebraska on the Missouri River. And they did serve there until 1821, when the rifle regiment was stood down, disbanded, and the companies at Fort Atkinson were actually absorbed into the 6th Infantry. So that's a little bit of history on the rifle regiment. And the reason I give that is because those are the troops that were equipped with the 1803 rifle. I have recently completed construction of this rifle, and I've given it a little bit of age. I've patinaed the brass and the ironwork, and I've given it some wear in a pattern where it would be worn when carried and used extensively. I've tried to make a weapon that once issued to a rifleman in 1808, by the War of 1812, he had been carrying this rifle and cleaning it and shooting it, and so it did have a little bit of wear to it. I'm pretty pleased with the way this rifle turned out. It has, as per the original, It has a 33-inch octagon to round barrel. The originals were in actually 53 caliber. A lot of the time you'll see it called a 54, but the barrels were actually a 53 caliber shooting a 520 ball. And this particular barrel, according to my measurements and compared with my other 54 rifle, is a little bit tight in the bore, and I will be shooting a 520 ball in this rifle. So it does have one barrel key holding the barrel to the stock, and of course it has a tang screw that goes all the way through. And this barrel key is captured as per the original rifles, which means that the barrel key itself is slotted and a pin is installed so that when you drive the key out of the barrel tenon, that it will not come all the way out and therefore can't be lost. So it does have one barrel key that is captured, and that is what holds the barrel to the stock. It does have the brass band around the fore end, just in front of the entry pipe, the ramrod entry pipe. Has the brass lock plate, yeah, that thing right there. Oh, getting old is not fun when your memory stops working. It has the brass butt plate, the brass patchbox lid, which is spring-loaded and with a button in the top of the butt plate as per the originals, which releases the patchbox lid. And brass trigger guard, single trigger. It has a lock that is marked Harper's Ferry 1803. This is an early rifle that would have been built in latter part of 1803, and yes, there is evidence that possibly up to 700 rifles were completed late in that year. So this rifle would have been built in latter part of 1803. Again, it has a 33-inch 53 caliber octagon to round barrel as per the originals, and a walnut stock. I did not put any stain on that stock. That is just finished down walnut, and has about, I think, 10 to 12 coats of boiled linseed oil. Turned out pretty nice. Has the iron rib under the barrel to hold the ramrod pipes. Just a small note here. Jacob Hawken did work at the Harper's Ferry Arsenal for several years during the time this rifle was being built. So if you stop and think about what the 1840s, 1850s Hawken rifle looked like, and then compare that mentally to this rifle, I see a lot of comparisons, a lot of similarities. So I don't wonder that maybe Jake Hawken took some of the features of this rifle and incorporated it into what would become known as the classic Hawken rifle. So this is my rendition of the 1803 rifle known as the Harper's Ferry. And in the next video, we'll go out and we'll shoot it for the first time, and hopefully it'll work. The lock, I've polished the internals on the lock, and it seems to function well and pretty quickly, so I think it'll be fine. I do want to leave this video with a couple of conjectures on my part as to how this rifle may have been associated with or played into a little bit of Western history. The first episode that I would equate it to, not chronologically, but one that I feel confident that this rifle did appear in, was the Arikara campaign of 1823. Now that campaign was led by Colonel Henry Leavenworth out of Fort Atkinson, leading several companies of the 6th Infantry against the Arikara tribes on the upper Missouri that had caused so much trouble to General Ashley and his crew trying to get up the river earlier that summer. Along with those companies of the 6th Infantry, again, remember that I said that the 1st Regiment of Rifles was absorbed into the 6th Infantry. There was a company of riflemen led by Captain Bennett Riley that was a part of that campaign, and I'm confident that in 1823 they were still carrying their Harper's Ferry 1803 rifles. Now, those could have been a later variant of the 1803. Some of those variants were extended, had barrels extended out to 36 inches and such, but I am pretty confident that Bennett Riley's company was carrying a U.S. rifle model 1803. The other historical episode that I would present to you is one that has been quite controversial over the years, whether this rifle actually was part of that episode or not, and that is the Corps of Discovery journey led by Captains Meriwether Lewis and William Clark. And I believe, although there are many proponents that say that the 15 short rifles that Lewis acquired at the Harper's Ferry Arsenal were cut down 1792 or 1794 contract rifles, personally, I don't believe that's the case. I believe that Lewis did acquire an early variation of this rifle for what he has called his short rifle that they took 15 of on that expedition. Now, you can agree with me or disagree with me, but having looked at the evidence over the years, I'm confident in my own mind and in my own heart that the 1803 Harper's Ferry rifle in some maybe pre-1803 production variant did accompany the Corps of Discovery to the Pacific Ocean and back. So I'm not going to go any farther into that, but I do suggest that you look into these two incidents and study up on them and enjoy the history that this rifle very could well have been a part of. It did take prominence in the battles that the U.S. riflemen did engage in during the War of 1812, so it did play a part in early U.S. history. Having said that, here again is my 1803 Harper's Ferry rifle. more properly known as the U.S. rifle, model of 1803. 53 caliber flintlock. This particular lock, the modern iteration, is from Davis Locks, and I think it's a decent lock. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this rifle shoots, and I hope you'll join me for that. As always, until next time, keep your flint sharp, your priming dry, and above all, stay free.